You also had another sweet gig after Dragula, which is you started to really do a lot of work with Sasha Velour in Nightgowns.
Yeah. I started to do the show in New York with her, and then I became a permanent cast member, and now we kind of have like a group of like 5 or 6 people that are the permanent cast that we get together every time we do Nightgowns.
And what's it like working with Sasha? She has such a clear vision of what she wants to do, and obviously she saw a lot in you because making you a regular cast member is no small thing.
Yeah, I mean, her vision is incredible, but one thing that I really appreciate about working with the Velours is that they have a theater background. They are like theatrical professionals, so the way they go about, you know, conceptualizing, you know, producing, and then staging a show is their approach is just very theatrical, and it's I love doing theater, and I love when drag is in a theater space, and that's what I really love about working with them, is that it's a very sort of streamlined, you know, professional process.
When you're creating something for Nightgowns, because it's such a special show, it really allows for a wide variety of emotional things, fun things. What's your process like when you're creating a number for something like Nightgowns?
You know, I've never had like a really concise, thought out, or like structured process. Sometimes I'll be inspired by a song and not really know what the concept for it is, and it'll just linger in my mind, and something will, you know, mix eventually. Or I'll have a concept, but I won't have a song, so I'll just go searching for music. Or I'll just have an idea through the day, and I'll just like store it in my head and keep it in the back of my mind. And sometimes they just kind of piece themselves together over time. But I don't think I've ever had like a very specific process of like A, B, C, D, and then a number, you know.
And what kind of advice or you know, direction did Sasha give you when you started the show?
One of the really great things about Nightgowns, it's called Nightgowns because, you know, a nightgown is like a uniform that you wear to sleep. So the concept of Nightgowns is that it's a place where people go to dream. You know, it's a place where dreams come alive. So although there is direction on behalf of Johnny and Sasha Velour, they largely kind of allow us to do what we want to do, and I think that's why the show is so diverse, is because it's largely people doing what they do best on their own terms. So you see people really like give you the best of themselves. Yeah. And
the Nightgowns became a TV show on Quibi just recently.
Yeah, we're on Quibi now. That was a really wild experience. We were shooting in New York for I think two or three weeks.
Wow, and so what was the process of that? Was it just filming a live show, or you guys did, because I haven't seen it?
Oh, what's really interesting about it is that every episode, they're like 10-minute episodes, they're short format, and every episode focuses on a specific performer in the cast and their process coming up with conceptualizing, creating the number, and every episode closes with our own number from beginning to end, like the full thing, but shot professionally on stage. So you really get to see, you know, every cast member's process.
And what was that like? Now, I remember you did a number for Nightgowns that was thinking about your family, and it was like a pretty emotional one. Tell me about the making of that number.
Was it the Dollhouse one or the one?
I think so.
Oh yeah, the Dollhouse one.
Yeah.
So I, for many years, had this like recurring nightmare of like my parents dying, and that's something that's always kind of scared the shit out of me. I got very, very lucky growing up in a small conservative town, having the parents that I did, because they're very open-minded. They love what I do. They love drag. They like go to my shows when they're in LA. And naturally, there's a part of me that's like mortified about not having them at some point. So to kind of exemplify that in a number, it's a number where I wear a dollhouse, like a Victorian dollhouse on my body, and it's painted to look in the original color scheme of the house that I grew up in with my parents. And the idea is that the house is kind of dilapidated and falling apart, but I've like chained it onto me because I don't want to let it go. And the number is kind of about me removing those chains that I've put on myself and dropping the house and sort of allowing a memory to be a memory and letting go of something when it's time to let go. So it's almost like, I guess, going through the motions of mourning something that hasn't necessarily happened, but that may, you know, and it scares the shit out of me. So I kind of flesh it out on stage.
The type of number that you can only really do somewhere like Nightgowns, where there's people thinking about what they're seeing and allowing for that emotional creative freedom.
Yeah, there's no risk of me slipping on someone's spilled drink in a full-ass Victorian dollhouse.
All right, now, Vander, hold up your hand. We would normally touch hands, but now we're going to go back in time. It's time to go back in the time machine. Whoa! Whoa! Here we are, Vander. Oh, look. Oh, let's still going. All right. A double time machine. All right.
Miss Thing, how far back are we going?
I don't know, sweetie. Oh, there's dinosaurs. Wait a minute, we've gone too far. We've gone too far.
Oh, my God.
Oh, we're here in Imperial City, California. Oh, and there's little Vander. Oh, and she's styling a baby wig. We got a picture of you in a baby wig. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Who knew that cute little baby with a bunny would turn into the spookiest queen in town?
You dug deep. Oh, my God. You could not tell me I wasn't the fiercest bitch at the daycare in that wig. Like,
Now, what were you like as a kid?
I was actually really quiet and really kept to myself. I was an only child, and most of my cousins were older than me, so I kind of just learned to entertain myself. And I lived in a really small town with very little of anything to inspire me. So I really clung on to movies. Every Friday, my dad would take me to the video rental store, and he would get me 5 movies every Friday so I could watch throughout the week. And that was what kept me alive. I feel in my hometown, it's what kept me from being just like completely miserable where I was living.
What are some of the movies that really stand out that were, game changers for you?
Ooh, a lot of movies with witches. I mean, The Wizard of Oz, The Witches with Angelica Houston, The Craft. I loved The Others with Nicole Kidman when I was a kid. I loved some of the 80s horror films like Fright Night or Night of the Demons. So I really clung on to horror. That's what really, for as long as I can remember, I clung on to it to, I guess, sort of vent what I was feeling in my hometown.
Now, you also sort of were between two cultures growing up, right?
Yeah.
Because you were in Imperial City, but then you would go to Mexico to be with your grandparents, right?
Yeah, I lived in Calexico, and Mexicali is across the border. They're right next to each other, so I was just back and forth my whole life.
And what was that duality like for you?
It's very it's a very interesting duality. It's one of those things where, because you grow up on both sides, like when I go to Mexico, it's like, oh, you're an American. But when I'm in the US, it's like, oh, you're Mexican. It's like, it's weird, like you're not one or the other. I actually really loved it. I'm really grateful for it. I had a difficult upbringing because it is very Catholic conservative town, but it's one of those things where I don't wish that kind of upbringing on anyone else, but because I experienced it and because I dealt with what I dealt with, I came out much stronger on the other side. So in a sense, I'm kind of grateful for it, but maybe not the best way to go about getting, a strong, thick skin.
Right, certainly a difficult way to go about it.
But I guess I'm grateful for what it was, yeah.
Now, were you in school, were you a weird kid? Were you a goth kid? Yeah,
God,
I can only imagine, Vander, that you were there with an emo haircut, all black.
Oh, God.
Am I right?
So gay. I was excruciatingly gay.
And when did the gay part come into your mind as I'm gay?
Ooh, I think I was 12 or 13, and it was a time where I was battling with my faith because I had been raised Catholic.
Right, and that is not easy to balance those two out, because the Catholic Church has not only been doing some terrible things over the years, but they've been very harsh on homosexuality and made it very difficult for people in their faith to come out.
Yeah, and I couldn't really, not just as a gay person, but as a trans person, I couldn't really I didn't discover my trans identity until I moved out of my hometown, because in my hometown I wasn't safe to explore that side of myself, or many sides of myself. I think moving out was when I really flourished.
And so when did you leave?
I left when I was 20. I moved to LA to pursue film, and then this happened.
Right. How long between you moving to LA and getting on Dragula?
It was maybe about a year and a half to 2 years. I had only been doing drag for about a year and a half, because I started drag almost right after I moved to LA.
Mm-hmm. And what about, now you came out to yourself before you came out publicly.
Yeah.
And then when was your journey into understanding that you were trans?
Drag really helped me to discover my trans identity. I had always been very effeminate and felt that within me and always wanted to wear certain things or you know, present a certain way, and I just couldn't in my hometown. And even when I moved to LA, I was still very uncomfortable doing it. And drag kind of was a segue as like an acceptable way of you know, gender bending, you know, because it's like acting, it's for stage, you know, so it's fine. And funny enough, I think one of the really pivotal moments for me was during the first Dragula UK tour. I had decided not to pad before the show for the meet and greet, so I wouldn't get all sweaty because there's like hardly any air conditioning in the UK.
Right.
So I was doing the meet and greets without any pads, and I was wearing this skirt that was like a wraparound, like satin drape, like really beautiful slinky skirt, and it had a slit down the side. And I had just finished getting ready. I got in the van, and I was waiting for the other girls to get in the van so we could go to the venue. And the slit like opened up, and it had like my bare leg, which I had hardly ever seen my bare legs in drag because I was always padded. But it was like my bare leg with just a fishnet and a stiletto, and I felt fucking hot.
Yeah.
Like, I felt hot as shit, and I like threw the pads out and I never padded after that. So there were like just those moments those really key moments that I remember that were like, oh, like that's when I started to like get it. And then, you know, it starts to become a thing where it's like, oh, but I don't want to take the drag off. I just want to be in it. You
Yeah.
know?